Feeling trapped by all the stuff? Can't keep up? No time to think or plan? Has the rush and gush of modern life got you trapped?
Slow is the new fast. Slow is the new fast.
Slow is the new fast.
Set your coordinates. It's Mach 0, making time for life, one thing at a time, with your host, the VIP coach, John Davidson.
Thank you for listening to the Mach 0 podcast. This is JD, and isn't it amazing? It's 2014. It is February 21st, 2014, and you're listening to Mach 0, making time for life, one thing at a time. So I like to think about this show as a resource for you to grow your business and also simplify your life. Isn't that a thought? Those two don't seem like they go together, do they? That you would grow your business and you would just get consumed by all the stuff and all the minutia. You'd get bogged down in all the roles, and that's typically what happens to entrepreneurs, is their enthusiasm starts to lose to all the complexity of their business. And the reason why you're here is you want a way to cut through all that. You want a way to not work harder, but you want a way to work smarter. And you know that it's about changing your habits. You know that it's about changing your support structure. You know that you've got to delegate. You've got to replace yourself in order to go to new levels. But there's risks. But in order to have opportunities, you've got to take those risks. So the reason why you're listening to this show, the reason why you're following Mach 0 is that lately you have felt the need to slow down. I created this show because I realized how important slow is to making things go fast. It sounds kind of paradoxical. It is a paradox because slow and fast are not the same thing. But you begin to realize that if you don't get still, if you don't control your attention, if you don't get your state of mind in the best spot, if you don't have a focus, if you don't set boundaries well, you're not getting anywhere. You're running in circles. You're going to be someone who's reactive all the time. You're what I call a reactive or a hopeless doer. In other words, you get into all this stuff that you're doing, all these things that you get caught up in. You become so busy that you're too busy being busy to do anything that would make you a lot less busy. So let's talk about this. Let's get into how you're going to move forward with your business. Today's topic on the show is about vision and direction. We've talked about life planning in previous shows, but I think this show is going to be more about something along the lines of your calling or your purpose. And this is something that a lot of people in our coaching sessions are bringing up, especially lately because they feel lost, they feel like they're doing non-essential work, and they have this sensation that what they're doing is not driving from their gifts. It's not something that's including who they are at the deepest levels. Why is that so? Well, we've gotten so conditioned. We've defined work as something that we don't like doing. Work is something that we have to suffer through. We don't consider work to be a place of fun, something energizing. We've come up with a formula that work is something that we have to sacrifice, that we don't pay attention to some of these things at work that energize us because, honestly, we're not supposed to. We run right past it because we say, well, something else is more important. I've got to raise a family. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And so I don't owe it to myself to have that kind of quality in my work. And that's kind of the problem, is that we've gotten so caught up in the dogma and the mental model of work becoming a place of hell instead of becoming a great place of fun and enjoyment and enthusiasm. And what suffers? Everything. Your enthusiasm suffers, your creativity suffers, and you suffer because the drive home is tough. The drive into work is tough, or the drive into the office, even at home. If you have a home office and you don't have fun with what you're doing, you're consumed by all the stuff, you're not connected to some sense of deeper purpose or calling. What does the deeper purpose of calling do? What does it do? What is it there for you to do? Why should you have that? Well, first of all, it's not something that you should have. Okay? A purpose is not something in vogue that you go find on the shelf somewhere. You can have a sense of purpose, but there is no such thing as a purpose. A sense of purpose is having a deep knowing, a deep urge that is dynamic, compelling, it's catalytic, to create something that just has meaning for you. And when I say meaning, how you get to this meaning is getting to it in many, many ways. So we're going to talk about the ways in which you identify what matters most to you, your aspirations, your longings, your values. The other reason why we don't get to these things, why we get sidetracked with our purpose, is that we organize our lives around our feelings, our immediate gratifications, and our comforts. Is that we have this short-term frame on things, that whatever feels good, or whatever helps us get pleasure, whatever entertains us, whatever consuming we like to do, we tend to gravitate towards that. And the reason why is that we have nothing more compelling to do. And so this sense of purpose becomes a form of almost protection. It becomes something that insulates us from this short-term framework from which we operate. And over time, we find ourselves not getting to anything really essential because we're constantly getting bombarded by the immediate gratifications. And when we do this, we just move into those. We make choices around those, or we just involuntarily just do it, and we end up where we don't want to be. It's almost like looking down at your feet for a bunch of time. You're looking right at your feet, the short term, and then you look up around you and you don't even know what room you're in. You're confused. So how do we come into crystallizing this sense of purpose? A couple things. Number one is to deepen your level of attention to the current reality that you're in. This is called learning to see. It's expanding your levels of awareness of what's actually going on. And the awareness, think of the awareness as an open awareness. It's almost like a field, a source from which you create. And there are a few sources. One is the past. See, when you come into the present moment and you're not immersing, you're not present to what's going on, you're downloaded by thought. You're always bombarded and downloaded. I call it being downloaded or entranced by thought. You're downloading some sort of thought that's coming in from the past that's adding meaning or interpretation like a pillowcase or a veneer over what's going on. And then we try to make sense of things. You see, the mind is really made that way. It's geared to help you know, or at least think you know, but all you have is a relative truth. And so you're looking through lenses and filters without knowing it. The word yoga, which comes from the root word yoke, means union with something, union with the divine, union with the greater power, union with Yahweh, union with God. But what it also means is an intentional stopping. To yoga something, the verb of yoga, is to intentionally stop the automatic stuff of the mind. How do we regulate that? How do we regulate the energy and information flow patterns that the mind produces out of downloading? Our awareness. So our awareness is like this regulator. Think of it like two parts. The mind is the awareness, and the brain is the conditioned mind. So when the awareness is regulating, we're able to see kind of new stories that we manufacture. We start to manufacture a story that's fictitious around reality rather than actual. So throughout the day, we're making up interpretations and assumptions about other people's intentions. And then we get emotional about that, and then we get angry, and then we get offended because we assume someone else's intentions. Or we go into the moment thinking it should be this way, but it's actually that way. So we create expectations out of our downloading. Or we just have a way of looking at the world, we have a lens of the way things should work, and then we are hung up and hypnotized by that way of thinking. And then we operate in a mechanical way based on that. We just automatically do that. We act and react from that place. That loses potential. That takes us out to an edge, but we can't go beyond it. That's inside the box, that old cliche. They say, think outside the box. I hate saying it, but it applies here, is that we're thinking beyond our own self-deception. What lies beyond self-deception is a different relationship with life, a different way in which we influence and take in the world, in a way that's more fresh, in a way that we directly relate with the life that's here without moving anything over it or onto it. We don't impose anything on it. We inhabit the actual life. Something the Buddha talks about in having a clear-mindedness, a clear perception, like wiping the windows, and clearly, accurately perceiving what's actually going on and having a direct experience with it. What the doctrine suggests is that there's a nature that we all have that is summoned by relating with life this way, that we are more generous, we're more kind in our nature, and that our presence to what's present, our presence, It brings us into a certain type of being. Not our doing part, not the part where we're on the way somewhere getting something done, but that our levels of awareness are bringing up the volume. It's turning up the charge of our battery on our being. On our being. You are a being and you're a doing. You do doing and you have a being. But a lot of the doing, you don't act from that place of being. You act from a place of downloading. The other source is we often act from a place of cynicism, is that we could have an intelligence to open our heart and be emotionally intelligent, but instead of understanding and having compassion, we disconnect, we isolate, we distance ourselves from those possibilities. And so we impose on the situation or the other a lack of understanding, a lack of toleration, a lack of acceptance. We close our hearts off to the differences and the variations that other people have. And we create isolation and disconnection and end up very empty. But there's also fear. Fear is an outlaw. Fear ambushes us because we can predict something around the corner that might be bad, and we say, no, I want to avoid that. But all fear really is just a concept. It's cloaked as truth, but all it is just a concept. Concepts are stored up thoughts from the past that we bring up, and then we operate from them. Those are the storage bytes of our mind, and fear is just a conceptual frame, but it's not actual. Because you really, truly, you don't know what's going to happen. And a lot of times fear is good. Sometimes fear is a way of preparing ourselves for something in fact negative. But can we really recognize the negative without being negative about the negative? Negativity is different than negativity itself. Negativity is very sharp, and it can awaken you. I remember moments when real people were dangerous in my life. And for me to be in denial about that or try to use positive thinking or see the good in them just would have been a miscue. It would have been a misfire. But by recognizing what they were and what they were capable of, without believing what they're going to become later, it allowed me to become resourceful and cue myself up to make good decisions. We have to come to terms with truth. The fundamental shift is choosing to be honest with ourselves. Another chance we have to come into our purpose is to confront these inner enemies of judgment and move to an open mind. Confront the inner enemy of cynicism and move to an open heart. A heart that's undefended, a heart that understands. To reawaken to those capacities. Why is that connected to purpose? Because when we are in a system, when we're in an institution, let's say I have a business, and I know that there is a customer that's been marginalized. If I walk in the shoes of that customer and I look back at myself or my business from those customers' eyes, I give myself a chance to empathically listen to that world that person is having. I remember experiencing my open heart recently when my daughter, at bedtime, told me there was a purple dragon in the closet. My judgmental mind, my download, wanted to talk her out of it and tell her how stupid she was. How is that possible? That's not possible. My logic came up. And then my open heart spoke to me. I listened to my heart's desires. And out of that, I followed that in. It was vulnerable. And I said, what do you think he wants? And she said, Daddy, he's hungry. And I said, oh, okay, is he? Well, why don't we go to the refrigerator and get some milk for him? She said, great. So we went to the refrigerator, we came back, and we played it out and gave milk, and then we went back and got some cookies, and we came back and so forth and made him very happy. I, the whole time, was struggling between my world and her world. That I was struggling with the edges of my downloaded thinking to be right versus operate in her world. And I noticed when I operated in her world, I could feel a synergy. I could feel a sense of connection that I couldn't get with my head, but I could get it with my heart. And it was at that moment that I recognized that there's something greatly possible around understanding other individuals from their side of the fence, from how they look out at the world through their eyes and their needs and their wants and their desires and their ills, that causes your heart to ache for something to change. If I think about world hunger, and I think about 2 billion people by the year 2020 will be living below the poverty line, or I think about those people that 2 billion people will have not clear drinking water. I know that when you hear that, you're not withdrawn from that. You're not independent of those features, of those defining features. Those are data points that define us in some way, that shape us, that help the world change us, bring us into wiser care and bring us into a sense of purpose. Because in some way I might come to the true self that I have, connect with some kind of future self that I would like to bring into the world, or the world needs me to bring into the world, that establishes a sense of purpose and meaning of what I'm going to do in terms of my work and my path. What about fear? What's the opposite side of fear? When I take the fear away, what do I have? Well, I have an open will. And that open will is the capacity for me to intend something deeply into the mystery. Because I don't know what the future is, I can't predict it. I can only create the future. I have to confront the fact that I will only know the path by walking on it. But if I let go of the fear and I'm bold and courageous to walk the path of my heart, to walk the path of what really matters to me as a professional creator, gifted boss, and business builder, that's a different path. That's a different place from which you act. And that place from which you act is that sense of purpose. It's a texture. It's something that brings you into the highest quality of expression of what you are at any moment. That's what leadership is the continuous expression of the highest quality of being that you can occupy. All right, are you intrigued? Now we're going to talk about, after the break, how do you apply this? What's the move forward on it? What are some steps that you can take to start to implement some of these tools right now? I'll be right back.
It's Monday morning. I'm drained.
You've got mail.
Oh, look at this. It's the Monday Advantage video. Yeah! Now I can get past the distractions and implement something new. The Monday Advantage. It's that easy. Just subscribe free for a limited time at highlevelperformance.com. Every Monday, launch the week with fresh tools, giving you the right state of mind, focus, and confidence. See what becoming a gifted boss and serial creator is all about. Subscribe today at highlevelperformance.com. That's highlevelperformance.com. And start enjoying your Monday Advantage today. Grow your business and grow as a human being with these captivating books authored by the VIP coach himself, John Davidson. The Day I Built My Barbecue is about creative freedom. Learn how you can not only live well, but also grow a thriving business at the same time. John shows you his step-by-step technique with the principles, strategies, and steps to move from a business operator to a business owner. The day you build your barbecue is the day we all wish for. Totally free of distractions, totally available to living well, fully present. Then don't miss Unstoppable You. It's about creative value. When we do what we love and love what we do, we discover ways to make our business more fun and monetize our passions. Through stories, tools, and steps, this book will help you bring something to the world that no one else can and bridge your most unique talents to the deepest aspirations you have of the future. And stand in the presence of all you are. It's about creative purpose. What does it mean to live on purpose? How do we work with the mystery that life presents us at every moment? In this book, John shows us through the silent spaces in life how to connect with our innermost sacred projects and passages. You'll learn how to bring the work, language, and presence of the soul into everything you do. Visit highlevelperformance.com to pick up any of these books in paperback or Kindle editions today. That's highlevelperformance.com. Having a life where you have the creative freedom to do what you love and to offer the world something that only you can bring to the table. That is the world of high-level performance with John Davidson. That is the world of radical creativity. That is the world that you can be a part of when you realize all that is holding you back is you. Begin the journey through one-on-one coaching that gives you the finesse for business and lifetime achievement. And find your place on the roadmap to high-level performance today. Visit highlevelperformance.com. From go time to slow time. Slow is the new fast. Mach 0, making time for life, one thing at a time. With VIP coach John Davidson.
Purpose. We're talking about sense of purpose here on the Mach 0 podcast. And we've learned that purpose is what's left after we confront the three inner enemies, the judgment voice, the cynicism, and the fear, and that it's a process of letting these things go. That letting go, the step in letting go, applying that step, has to do with slowing down. I talked about this at the front end of the show, that when our brain is quiet, when we access our stillness, when we go to the place of grounding ourselves, when we become quiet and still, we're better able to access and listen generously to the greatest source from which we can crystallize and create, the greatest and most noble place from which we can act. It's sensing and actualizing an emerging future possibility. We must learn to listen. So how do we learn to listen? Daily, we set up a ritual of 15 to 30 minutes to stop, take a sacred pause, and to connect with our innermost voice. And sometimes that sitting is very passive. We do absolutely nothing. It could be a meditation on simply breathing. Whatever pings you, whatever inklings you get, you listen to them. But maybe you go in with some questions, like what is it that really touched me or moved me in the most recent days? You become intimate with your life. What is it that really amazed me or surprised me, delighted me in the most recent days? As I go up in the helicopter of my life and I look down on it, what's really trying to happen here? On my journey, what is it that's trying to happen? If I had a conversation with my 93-year-old self, what advice would that 93-year-old self give me about my path right now? If I could consider a way or a time that I was operating at my very, very, very best, what was that time? And as I ask you these questions, you may want to stop the tape and write these down, because these questions are evocative. You live with them, you marinate on them, you fiddle with them. The questions and the data speak to you, they stir you. Trust the answers. Be faithful to them. And as you look around you at what amazes you as to what touches you or moves you, ask yourself, what's really challenging me beyond the familiar right now? Where am I being challenged? Where am I being pulled over the edge? Where is there gathering happening in my life? Gatherings that are rising. Where is there something gathering? You know, over the year that you've had, if you look back on the year, there was a lot that was gathered. If you were to take the three most important elements that you gathered at the very apex of your gatherings, what would they have been? What teachings would they have been? What additives would they have been to your life story that's unfolding? What's the biggest risk that you're not taking? Where are you saying yes that you shouldn't? And where are you saying no that you don't mean? What refusals are you postponing? What refusals are you postponing? When you postpone a refusal, you're out of alignment with the terms of your soul. When you postpone a refusal, you're out of alignment with the terms of your soul. And I want you to really deeply listen to these two next questions, more than these others. What am I doing with this wild and precious gift of life that I have? What am I doing with this wild and precious gift of life that I've been given? Am I doing what I truly came to do? Am I doing what I truly came to do? And out of those two questions, What are the sparks, the cues, the clues that are signaling my work, that are signaling my current direction? What are the sparks? What are the cues? What are the clues that are signaling my direction? What are they? What are the sparks that are signaling my clues and cues as to what I need to do and where I need to focus my attention? These sparks could be particular human beings or situations. They're pings from the future that are calling you to come into reality. These sparks are signatures that your destiny has on it. These are clues that say what's ready to take off. They're runways. Pay attention to them. They're all around you. Everything around you is ready to begin. What is between you and being free? 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 I remember a time in my life when I was out of money and I couldn't pay my rent. I had done everything I could to get new coaching clients. It was right at the beginning of my career. And I remember I was so doubtful. I didn't have a strong pipeline. It was the first year in business. I had a young son and a wife depending on me. And I didn't have enough money to buy ground beef at the supermarket. My account was negative. And my rent was due that day. I felt beat up. I needed help. My wife, so supportive, said, "Let go." And I felt so responsible. It was such a struggle inwardly to think that letting go couldn't be just something totally irresponsible. Here I was, a provider, and I felt that need, that deep sense of failure and letting people down. But she said, "It's only temporary. Just let it go." So I kind of got my consciousness around that. I let go. I decided to, but it wasn't full-bodied. And then someone knocked on the door. It was my neighbor, John. And John told me that he had hit my car pulling out of his driveway. I was in such a bad spot, it was as if someone had kicked me on the ground. I didn't know what to say to him. He just looked right at me. He knew I was in a bad space. I said, "Okay." He said, "Do you want to come see it?" I said, "No, I'm afraid what will happen if I do." I said, "Is it bad?" He said, "Yeah, it's pretty bad." He said, "Okay, well, I'll get a hold of my insurance company and we'll work it out." I said, "That's fine." I shut the door in his face. I turned around and I didn't know, I felt such a lost sense of what the hell am I going to do? I felt so helpless. It was a victim feeling. 15 minutes go by, and there's a knock on my door. And I'm ready to talk to my neighbor again. It must be him, and he's probably coming back to tell me something more. So I open the door with great intensity. And I startled the guy standing there, and it was a salesperson. And I wasn't nice, and I assumed that it was a salesperson. I said, "No, thank you very much. Have a great day." And he said, No. He says, "I'm from the insurance company." And I said, "Wow, okay, are you selling insurance?" He said, "No, I represent your neighbor John, and he asked me to look at the damage, and I'm here to speak with you." So he said, "Can you step outside?" Mr. David said. I stepped outside. My rent was $1,125. I didn't have it. That's all I could think about was I had to do something. Borrow the money. I had to do something because I was going to be evicted and I had a tough property management company that was renting me the property. The man began to say that the damage was pretty bad, and he asked me if I wanted to go look at it, and I said no. And he said, well, look, I'm really sorry about what my client did, and to make it up to you, here's the body shop. We have several that you can go to. Here's the list. And also, here is the check to go fix your car. And the check was for $825. And I said, oh, okay, so the check is for the body shop. Is it made out to the body shop? And he said, no, it's made out to you. Wow. Thanks so much for the check. Is the car drivable? He said, yes. And he said, Mr. Davidson, I also want to give you a check here for the car rental while your car is in this shop, so it doesn't inconvenience you. Here's a check for $300. I could hardly take the check with my hand. It was so miraculous that I didn't know what to say. I had to get out of there. I could not stand. I had a miracle. I shook his hand. I hugged him. I walked back inside, and I fell to my feet. I sobbed. I didn't just sob. I wept. My wife came over. She lifted me up, and she said, you see, when you let go, there's some amazing things that emerge. You were so struck by this thing that happened, and you felt it in your identity, John. But as you let go and let it just be what it is, isn't it amazing the things that begin to take place? I paid my rent. It was $1,125 that day. I kept going in coaching. That was my signpost. That was my spark. That was my cue. I want to thank you for listening to today's show. And I hope that when moments like this, when defining moments for you happen, and they will when you let go, that you come to terms with who you really are and what you really need to do, because these kind of things confirm your pathway. Don't edge them out of your view. Let them happen on your radar. Your head cannot get around these kind of experiences, but your will and your heart can. I hope that this story touched you in some way and that you consider seriously the questions that I've asked you. Indeed, it takes practice to let go and let something come. It is incredibly scary, but at the same time, something in you is waiting to be born. You cannot escape the sentiment of something on the way out that's ready to die and something ready to begin that's still indistinct, that's on its way in. It's just the natural order of nature. It's the way of things. So you have to get with the program. Life is in the business of creating life. You only have so much power. If the current is going left and you're going right, you've got to listen. Our number is 714-912-9261. We're online at highlevelperformance.com. I do hope you go there to our site. And if you need a wingman or a companion to create your dreams, to create the business that you want, to be a gifted boss, a serial creator, and a great business builder, we'd love to be part of it. I do hope that something in this audio has connected you to some sense of soul service. That underneath everything that you do, that continuous quality of expression that you get brought into, it means that you honestly create value for other people. The world needs people like that. That's where you're useful. And if you come from that place, you will find prosperity and abundance in anything. Even if it's not monetary, you will be full. And if it is monetary, even better. Thank you for listening to today's show.
For more tools, go to highlevelperformance.com. Better business, better life. Fast growth, keeping things simple. Or visit us on Facebook, Mach 0, making time for life, one thing at a time. Set boundaries, focus your attention, and maintain a positive state of mind. Hire a VIP coach to help you. Call 714-912-9261.